LinkedIn marketing solutions to achieve your demand generation objectives. I'm Jen Augustin. I am on the product marketing team here at LinkedIn, and I'm joined today by Amanda Halley, who manages all of our internal demand generation, including our usage of LinkedIn. So just a few notes before we get started. If you do have a question, we will have some time at the end of today's event to answer them. So feel free to submit all questions in the Q&A box on the console. Do join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag LinkedInDemandGen, and definitely follow us for more on Twitter at LinkedIn Marketing as well as on LinkedIn.com. So what are we going to be talking about today? I think it's useful for any conversation around demand generation to really start with the buyer's journey. It's really where it all begins, especially for marketers. And you've probably heard a lot about its length and its complexity, but we're really going to break it down today to figure out where all of our unique challenges and also our opportunities are. And then with that context, we're going to start to rethink how we approach demand generation using LinkedIn products and how we can apply different products to solve those specific challenges. After that, I'll hand over things to Amanda, who's then going to walk through specifically how we use LinkedIn internally to achieve our own demand gen goals. So today's buyer's journey, it's all about unpredictability, right? You have tons of people potentially in the buying decision. These people are using multiple devices to try and educate themselves and do their research. Moreover, people are always on the go, right? They're checking emails and surfing the web when they're outside of the office. And a lot of the decisions are often made, outside the hours of 9 to 5. So it's really up to us marketers to figure out how can we just do our best to stay in front of prospects wherever they are. And it's not easy. I mean, people who are doing all this research and educating themselves, they can be up to 90% through the buying process before they're actually raising their hand to talk to sales. And so what this means is there's a huge gap for marketers to make an impact, right? We need to somehow get our brands in front of people before they're ready to raise their hand. What's more is that content is playing more of an important role than ever. People are using their devices to access and consume content about your solution or service. On average, about 10 pieces of content are consumed before a decision is made. So we really have to both produce great content for our prospects, but also distribute this content in a really effective way. And what it all comes down to, I think, is it's still the marketing funnel that we're dealing with this buying process, right? This may be sort of a simplified outlook, but I think even if it's basic, it still gets at the heart of it all. It gets at the heart of what we're trying to achieve. At the very bottom, we do want to acquire new leads and acquire new customers. But before doing so, we first have to, at the very top, reach more of the right people and essentially nurture them through the funnel effectively in order to drive those leads. So how are we doing this today? What does a typical marketing mix look like? A lot of us are using display advertising, especially at the top of the funnel to reach more of the right audience. Social media marketing and content marketing are pretty much must-haves today, right? Especially considering how we rely on content marketing to fuel pretty much all of our other digital channels. And then email marketing and search. I like to think of these as sort of the tried and true workhorse channels for us, especially as demand gen marketers, right? We've been using them for years. We're familiar with the technologies. We're familiar with how to measure success. And there's no way that the email and search are going away. But despite all these great channels and the diverse channels that we're using, we're still encountering a lot of challenges. So if you think about it, the ultimate goal is to drive people to your website, right? You want to drive them to your website where you can then drive them to a landing page and eventually convert the lead. But here's the issue. With all the efforts that you have, all your programs that you're spending on to drive these people to your site, when they get there, only 5% of them are filling out a form. And even if they do give you their contact information, at best, your email open rates are only around about 18 to 20%, right? So flip that around, and about 80% of the people that are in your email database aren't even listening or engaging with you. And ultimately, it leads to sort of this dismal statistic down at the bottom, right? 1% of opportunities are captured. It's a huge opportunity that we're missing right there. So despite all of this, despite all of our efforts that we're putting forth right now, we're doing a pretty good job, but we can still do better. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So where are these missed opportunities? Let's pinpoint a few of them. Here's a stat about the buying committee. So no less than 17 people when it comes to enterprise tech purchases are involved in that buying decision. That's a lot of people, right? 44% of buyers are also researching this information online. They're mobile, they're using a lot of devices, which is fine, except for the fact that most of us as B2B marketers aren't actually using mobile marketing. Our marketing is just not optimized the way it should be. But let's say we do somehow get them to our site, right? Again, 95% of them aren't filling out a form. 80% aren't opening their emails. And then finally, half of these business decisions are actually being made outside of the office. So we can no longer rely on the fact that we can, cross our fingers and hope to reach someone within the hours of 9 to 5 in their email inbox. That just isn't realistic anymore. We need to figure out ways to be wherever our prospects are and whenever they are ready to engage with us. So how do we drive more effective marketing? So one of the things we're really going to sort of start to embrace during this webinar is, as demand gen marketers, let's start to sort of let go of the bottom funnel a little bit. We've been trained to sort of live in this world of leads and cost per lead and conversions, which are, ultimately probably what we're going to be counting on, right? But in order to really do a good job at the bottom of the funnel, we first need to do a great job at the top. And so we're going to focus on how demand gen marketers today can use top funnel activities to increase awareness and build their brands and shape perception throughout the buying process. Because once you do this, you're really setting yourself up for better success at the bottom. If you are getting in front of people early in the process, you're going to automatically improve that lead quality when it comes to nurturing them. You're going to drive more conversions, you're going to drive more pipeline and revenue for your sales team. So here's a look at the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions portfolio. We're going to be talking about each of these products today, but I wanted to show this to give you an idea of where the strengths are for each of these products when it comes to the marketing funnel. So as you can see, display advertising works great at the top of the funnel to really help you reach the most people you can in your target audience. Sponsored updates is unique, and you can use it for both brand awareness at the top as well as driving leads at the bottom, as we'll see in a little bit. Sponsored InMail is a great way to reach people on a one-to-one level in a very customized, relevant way. And then finally, Lead Accelerator is something we're going to be focusing a lot on too. It's basically the product that really turns lead nurturing on its head. And we'll talk about that in more depth in a bit. But essentially, it's going to break beyond the limitations of traditional email nurturing and help you reach people anywhere online. So with that in mind, let's start to think about how we can rethink demand generation with these products. We're going to examine this in 4 key ways. So the first is investing in the top of funnel. How can we do more top funnel activities to drive more bottom funnel conversions? Second, how can we take advantage of all those anonymous website visitors that are coming to our site and keep our brand in front of them more effectively? Third, we're going to be talking about messaging and content and relevancy. I think we all do a pretty good job of it when it comes to the people that we know, so the people that we email constantly. We know what they're looking for in terms of information and offers, but we're going to look at, what about the people that we don't know? Is there a way you can stay just as relevant with them? And then finally, we'll talk about how LinkedIn products can help you essentially reach people when they're most receptive to your message. So first of all, top funnel programs. Why should you embrace them in the first place? If you think about the length and complexity of the buying process, whether you're in B2B or in high consideration B2C, someone's going to come to your website and it's highly likely that they aren't going to convert right away. And that's understandable given sort of the length and complexity of the sales cycle, right? So if they're not going to convert right away, you need to do your best to keep your brand in front of them both early and often throughout the buying process. You need to just seed that interest and that demand as early as you can, because when it comes time to actually make that purchasing decision, you want to be part of that consideration set. And ultimately, as we mentioned earlier, the more interest you drive at the top, the more qualified prospects you get at the top, the more leads you'll eventually get at the bottom. So how do you do this with LinkedIn? LinkedIn display advertising is the key to increasing your brand awareness anywhere online. You can basically tap into the more than 364 million professionals that are on the LinkedIn network and target them and serve them very relevant display ads, both while they're on LinkedIn.com and across the web. So we essentially have two offerings for display advertising. The first is on-site display. So these are the ads that you see when you're on LinkedIn.com. And then network display is the ability to serve ads anywhere online. So on LinkedIn, but also on any premium business website, on the ad exchanges, on Facebook. We essentially give you that ability to reach those professionals anywhere they are online. My case is a great example of a company that's used LinkedIn network display to increase their brand awareness. And so as you can see here, their goal was both brand awareness and generating really high targeted website traffic. Because if you think about it, the more of the right people that you drive to your site, the more likely they will be to convert. And so as you can see here, they achieved nearly a 5 times increase in the number of daily website visits from legal professionals. And I want to call this out because it's not just from any business professional, it's from the target audience that they cared about. That is sort of what they're measuring the success of their brand awareness campaigns on. Did I get to the right people, and did they come to my site? And they did, using LinkedIn network display. So let's tackle the second piece. How can you rethink demand gen in terms of all those anonymous visitors that are coming to your site? Historically, you would probably just sort of cross your fingers and hope that they would come back to your site at some point and then fill out a form, right? There's now a more proactive way to approach this because these people are inherently valuable, right? If they're coming to your website in the first place, they're already familiar with your brand and they're exhibiting some level of interest, so you should really take advantage of that. This is where LinkedIn Lead Accelerator comes into play. The easiest way to think about Lead Accelerator is it's like marketing automation, except using display and social ads. So if you think about the way you are currently targeting people that you know with your email nurturing, Lead Accelerator does the same thing, except using display and social ads, and can do so with people that you don't even know. So if you have in mind an ideal buyer persona, say you have a specific company size you're aiming for, a title, a job function, a level of seniority, we can help you target your ads to who those people are, but also based on where they're visiting your site. So you can target them based on if they're visiting your product page, your pricing page, your demo page. You're able to target all of these people even though you don't know who they are at this moment in time. And that really helps you sort of increase the probability of getting those anonymous visitors to convert. So where does Lead Accelerator allow you to serve these ads? Pretty much anywhere on the web. So LinkedIn sponsored updates is a very important channel for Lead Accelerator. So you can serve your ads directly in the LinkedIn feed, Facebook news feed as well, and then pretty much anywhere you see display ads online. So any premium business websites, any ad exchanges, you have the capability to nurture people in a very effective way wherever they may be. Localytics is an example of a company that does a really great job of this. Again, their goal is to generate leads. But I do want to call out one thing. The first bullet here of their results is pretty interesting. As you can see, they're not just all about leads. They're also interested in measuring increases in page views, as well as increasing repeat visits. And both of these are great indicators of success of display ads at the middle of the funnel. We don't talk about sort of what happens in between top and the bottom, right? The middle is where engagement takes place. And you want to know sort of how your ads are performing before those people become leads. So LinkedIn actually allows you to do this with its analytics. So you can actually see if you've got a display ad in market, is it driving the right people to my site? And more importantly, are they actually engaging with my content? And Localytics, achieved a 116% increase in the number of page views per visitor, so the pages that they're consuming, and a 56% increase in visits per visitor. So these people are obviously interested in coming back. So that's just something I wanted to call out there. But going back to leads, the second bullet is sort of amazing, right? 870 new leads just from the anonymous website visitors. This speaks to the importance of going after those people who aren't filling out forms right away, right? There's such a huge potential in that group of people. And thirdly, these people are the right people that they're getting to their site, because these leads that are converting were twice as likely to be sales qualified than what the company average was. So it really speaks to sort of the targeting that they're doing and how effective it is. So messaging and content. Content marketing is everywhere today, and we sort of always want to strive to give people the right content based on their needs, right? Based on where they are in the sales cycle and their purchase decision. We need to just always aim for providing value. We need to be helpful, right? I think we're doing a good job of this when it comes to the email marketing we're doing through our email tools or marketing automation systems. But, is there a way to do that with all those anonymous visitors as well? And so this is where Lead Accelerator comes into play again. So you're able to take different groups of people that are coming to your site and serve different display and social ads to them based on where they visited. So here's an example. Let's say you have two groups of people. You've created two segments of your website visitors. The first group are those who have only visited your homepage. The second group are those who have visited, let's say, very high value pages like your product page or your pricing page. You want to speak differently to these people who have visited your high value product pages, right? They are likely to be more sales ready. And so you want to give them the content that will matter most to them, be it data sheets, case studies, free trials, what have you. But you don't want to completely ignore people who are only visiting your homepage, right? They are still, again, probably earlier in the buying process. So just speak to them differently with different sets of content. And Lead Accelerator enables you to do this through the display ads you serve. Workfront is a company that does a great job at sequencing their ad creative. They're actually after IT professionals as well as marketers and other high-level decision makers. And they've chosen to segment based on known and anonymous visitors and sequence their content over a matter of weeks and really sort of tailor this content based on who they're talking to. And as you can see, their efforts have really paid off. So more than 640 leads in just 3 months, as well as a CPL that's below target. So they were quite happy about that as well. So finally, how do we reach prospects when they're most engaged? How do we put our company's best selves in front of these people when they're most receptive to talking to us and learning about us? LinkedIn sponsored updates and sponsored InMail both do a great job at this. They're both automatically optimized for mobile, and they're really great at delivering very relevant content when people are most receptive to reading this content. So people are coming to LinkedIn.com, first of all, not to just sort of participate in career-related activities, but they're coming to actually consume content. And, advertisers have achieved great results just by being in the LinkedIn sponsored updates feed, either with thought leadership pieces or, even very sort of lower level case studies, webinar invites, things like that. You can really use sponsored updates to both increase your brand awareness, but also to ultimately drive leads as well. Another great option for really interacting with people on a very personalized level is sponsored InMail. So it's worthy of calling out that InMail really sort of breaks down those traditional limits of email marketing, specifically in terms of its deliverability. So we offer 100% deliverability with InMail. And what this means is someone's not going to receive an InMail unless they're on LinkedIn.com. And so let's see what this looks like through a case study. So Replicon, all about generating leads. Take a look at that open rate for sponsored InMail. 48% traditionally, I think, on average, is about 18 to 20% for traditional email, right? An open rate of 4 to 8%, and a response rate is 11 times better than the other social channels they're using. So they're obviously able to both reach the right people and engage with them in a very meaningful way. They're also using sponsored updates very effectively and achieving a great level of engagement there. And the cost per lead, 73% lower than other channels that they're using. So it's really a testament to the fact that they're able to drive those conversions in very effective ways with both InMail and sponsored updates. So I'm going to hand things over to Amanda now, and she will take over.
All right, sorry, 1 second here. Okay, thanks, Jen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how LinkedIn uses LinkedIn. And basically, I'm going to take an example of a campaign that we launched early this spring and share how we promoted that on all different channels. So the campaign we're going to talk about today is our crash course in full funnel marketing. So the Crash Course in Full Funnel Marketing was a new ebook that we launched in early April, and it was one of our kind of standard pieces of content. It was a great ebook, and we were going to promote it to a good portion of our database, demand gen marketers, brand marketers. It sort of covered all bases. And what we try to do with our campaigns is we promote them across all of our different channels, and we have found that this is the most effective way to really launch a new campaign. So we're thinking about our channels in two different ways. We're thinking about them as nurture channels. So we consider those channels that are kind of always running. So maybe not just what you think of as like an email drip campaign, but like, for example, when we're running lead accelerator ads, we consider that nurture. Even sometimes when we're running Facebook ads, we consider that nurture, because those campaigns are constantly working for us in the background. And then we have other channels like email and webinars that are more like provisional or one-off campaigns that we focus on. So every time we launch a new asset, we focus on promoting it in both channels. So we have a constant stream of leads coming in from the nurture channels, and we have a boost from leads from channels like emails and webinars. So first place we kind of always naturally go when we launch a new ebook is email. It's the tried and true channel. It works really hard. It does a great job of bringing in leads for our team. And so we promote everything via email to our database. And we try to be very specific in our targeting. We try to focus the targeting or base the targeting off of what the offer has and what it involves. So we sometimes have offers that are more demand gen focused versus brand focused. And you do list segmentation that way. So display is one of the nurture channels that we always use. And when we launch a new piece of content, what we do is we ask our agency to create all different assets for those campaigns. So we have email headers, display ads, sponsored update images, Facebook images, webinar content, like all different types of things. So they kind of give us this package, and it's become our process. And it makes it really easy to launch on all channels as we kick a new offer off. So we ran display both on and off LinkedIn. And so the off LinkedIn part of it gets us a lot more reach. We're able to get this out in front of a lot of people. And then on LinkedIn, also same type of thing. We're doing a lot of specific targeting there and really trying to reach people through our platform. Sponsored updates is always a piece of our launch. So we promote all of our content and webinars using sponsored updates, and it does a really great job of driving both downloads and webinar registrations when we have them. So here's an example of our sponsored update and some of the metrics that you would see from sponsoring. So here we gained an extra 280,000 impressions, and we increased our engagement by 0.36. And here's an example of a webinar sponsored update that we would use. And so now I'm going to actually transition into talking about webinars. So when I'm talking about launching an ebook, why am I kind of talking about a webinar? So what we do at LinkedIn is every time we launch a new ebook, we create a webinar around it. And this really allows us to expand the content, take it to a different channel, and do some different things with it. So if we have a customer speak or a customer quoted in the ebook that we're launching, then we might ask them to join the webinar and speak in more detail about how they ran that campaign. And so it's actually been a very effective process for us, and people find a lot of interest in these webinars. So we always promote those when we launch the ebook. So this is our webinar landing page. And so that kind of leads us into our next channel, which is InMail. And InMail has become a channel that we always use to promote webinars. It is a really powerful channel. LinkedIn has done a really great job of improving the product over the first part of this year. And we are getting as high as, I believe it's like 35 to 40% open rates on our InMails for events, which is really great. So it's one of those channels that is just always a part of our marketing mix when promoting webinars, and it performs really well. And so we also use InMail as an opportunity to test different things, just like we would in email. And in this case, for this webinar, we actually tested sending the invite from a person. So you can see here Sean Callahan versus LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. And our theory was that the invite from Sean Callahan was going to do better. We'd see a stronger open rate because it was coming from a person versus a company. And that held true, except that our click-through rate was much higher on the invitation from LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. So it seems that while people are more likely to open an InMail from a person, they are actually more likely to engage with an InMail from a company. So we kind of found that observation. So we kind of continue to test that as time goes on to see if it might change. Now I take you to Lead Accelerator, where we're kind of back on that always-on channel. And so this is an example. This is actually an example of 4 of our campaigns that we have running through Lead Accelerator at LinkedIn. And you can see at the top, I have listed the different sort of targeting here. So we have engaged, which are people who have visited multiple pages on our website. We have homepage bouncers, which are people that have just come to the homepage and left. And then we have product sponsored or product specific targeting on the right side. So we're targeting people who visit the Lead Accelerator page and our sponsored update page. And what you're seeing is the different ads that they see in each of the different weeks that they spend in that wave when they visit our website. So we have implemented the crash course to full funnel marketing in a couple of those different streams where we think it makes sense. So if there's mention of a product, we'll put it in the product stream. In the engaged stream, it's actually performing really well. It's a piece of content that people really engage with. So we are sprinkling it in wherever it seems to make the most sense, and then constantly watching the click-through rate and impressions per action and optimizing that piece of content and moving it around or removing it if it's not performing. And then this is just to go a little bit further, Lead Accelerator. So I just showed you display ads, but we also can promote sponsored updates through Lead Accelerator and Facebook ads as well. So it gets it really across all the different channels, mobile, desktop. It really allows you to kind of disperse your content in different areas and different platforms. All right. Okay, and then finally, our last channel that we always use to promote content is our blog. And our blog is hugely successful for leads. It drives a ton of leads for our demand gen team, and it's a place that we always go to promote new content or new webinars or even new products. It gets a lot of reach and a lot of shares. And it's just become a place where it's just every time we launch a campaign, we're going to that channel as well. So as you can see, we really take a multi-channel approach to our campaigns. We try to take advantage of everything that we have, both in-house and also take advantage of some things externally as well. And it's given us really great results. So I just want to share a couple of the results that from the campaign that launched in early April. So the webinar actually that was associated with the ebook drove over 1,100 registrations, and 823 of those came from email, and then we also generated an additional 254 registrations from InMail. So a really great channel to kind of boost up that registration, bumping us over the 1,000 registrant mark. And then the ebook in the first 30 days generated 556 tasks, and which is a kind of an internal term that we use, but it's kind of what most people would actually think of as a marketing qualified lead, and then 300 marketing qualified leads that the sales team or the sales dev team deemed to be qualified and moved on to opportunities. So really strong results. Our top channels were email, display, and sponsored updates, and I'll show you a little chart of that on the next slide. So this chart here shows the breakdown of our marketing qualified leads by the channel. As you can see, email was our biggest channel, which is not surprising. It's 39%. But what's interesting is on the left side, you'll see sponsored updates drove 70% of the marketing qualified leads, and then display drove 22%, which is a really strong channel for us here. The LinkedIn house ads perform very, very well. So ads on LinkedIn are a strong lead driver for us. And so that drove 39% of our marketing qualified leads. So equivalent to email. And then you can see that the webinar also drove a good percentage, and then our blog and social media drove almost 10% of our leads. So just shows the mix, like all these channels are important. If you leave one out, you're going to lose out on leads. And so we really take a multi-channel approach when launching a new campaign. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Jen for our closing thoughts.
Great. And Amanda, if you wouldn't mind, you can just keep the slides, and
yep.
we only have a couple more. So yeah, thanks for that. And just again, some final thoughts to leave you all with. We really sort of wanted to position this webinar as just a new way of thinking about demand generation. And the first part about that is really, embracing the top of the funnel. So look for opportunities to really get your brand out there early and often throughout the buying process. And in doing so, you're going to set yourself up for success at the bottom. Secondly, again, remember to take advantage of all of those anonymous website visitors that you're not currently reaching right now. Instead of just sort of waiting and hoping that they'll come back to your site and fill out a form at some point, proactively go after them using a product like Lead Accelerator to really sort of guarantee that, you're tapping into that really valuable group of people. Thirdly, of course, tailor your messages and content to anonymous people just as you would your known people, right? Because as you saw with one of those case studies, a huge group of your leads can really sort of live inside that group of anonymous visitors. It's just up to you to really tap into that. And then finally, it's time to really start embracing the opportunities that reside in mobile marketing. Our prospects are really on the move, and they're using multiple devices to research us. So it's really up to us to be where they are, anywhere online and wherever they may be. And this final slide is just an example of an offer that I believe you'll get in the follow-up email. So it's sort of the companion ebook guide to this webinar. So you're going to find everything in there that we talked about today. And I do encourage you to also visit both our case studies and the LinkedIn marketing blog, which has a ton of great information on demand generation strategies and practices. So let's head into the Q&A. We've got a ton of great questions here, so thank you so much for participating. I will kick things off. There were a few questions around where ads are actually served. So with network display, again, network display is just off LinkedIn, so any of the business websites or ad exchanges that you have on the web is where you'll see network display ads. But we do, of course, also offer on-site display. So you have the opportunity to take advantage of both. On-site is on LinkedIn.com, network is anywhere else off LinkedIn. As for Lead Accelerator, the channels, again, that you can use for Lead Accelerator to serve your ads are one, sponsored updates, Facebook newsfeed is another, and then again, any of the ad exchanges online are also potential ways to reach your prospects with display. There was a question around the services component. So someone commented that, is there a way that LinkedIn provides services to help you launch your campaigns? And the answer is yes. You are provided with a relationship or account manager to help you if you're doing campaigns that are not self-service. So any field campaign does come with some assistance from an account manager who is there to make sure that you are off and running and have a great start and are able to best optimize things going forward. So a lot of great questions came in for Amanda as well during her presentation, so I'll dive into a few of these. Let's see, Amanda, what do you feel is the right mix of InMail, sponsored updates, and Lead Accelerator for various campaigns and goals, just in terms of how you approach it?
Sure. So I'll start with InMail. I think InMail is a channel that is something that I would think of similar to email. So it's sort of a good supplement channel, something to sort of give a boost to your campaigns. And so I would focus on using InMail, particularly around like webinars or events and sometimes content, depending on what you're launching. But definitely think of it as an email type of channel where you really want to drive additional leads and maybe reach new people. As far as, sponsored updates in LLA, I think those are two channels that kind of, one of those nurture channels I was talking about that kind of keep on giving. So if you were to use Lead Accelerator, that's something that you would set up and sort of keep running until you see, optimizations or the metrics or the performance of the campaign start to decline, or the piece of content rather. So that's something that I think of more as kind of always a given for a new piece of content for our team. So we always are promoting it through Lead Accelerator. Again, it sort of kind of depends on what the offer is. I think broader offers tend to work a little bit better in Lead Accelerator when you're talking about, more of the like homepage bouncers and engaged people. But sometimes, very targeted offers, pieces of content, around like an industry-specific piece of content that you're targeting towards a specific industry also perform really well in Lead Accelerator. So there's kind of a lot of options you can use there, but it's definitely a channel that I would always include in my mix if you were to, start to use Lead Accelerator. And sponsored updates too. I mean, that's a channel that is kind of constantly working for you. It shows up in the news feed. You're expanding your reach of who is seeing your company page updates or your sponsored updates, and it's become a great lead generation channel as well as branding channel. So it can be used in a variety of different ways. But definitely something that I think is always worth running when you're launching a campaign.
Great, thank you. There was a question around a feature capability for Lead Accelerator. Does it allow you to specify which pages users didn't hit as well? And I guess I can answer this conversely. So by indicating which specific pages you only want to serve ads to specifically, you're hence excluding all the other pages. So yes, you're able to really pinpoint which pages you want to serve, or which pages that visitors have visited, you're able to serve the ads to.
You do also have the ability to exclude certain pages as well. So if you wanted to make sure that people reading your career page, for example, are not getting your campaigns, you could include them in the exclude section of Lead Accelerator. Oh yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Again, an example of not so much of a high value page. Okay. Another great question around, let's see, creative in in Lead Accelerator. So, Amanda, how frequently on average do you refresh your creatives in Lead Accelerator? And what are some of the metrics you use? Sure, so that's a good question. So we actually don't refresh our creative in Lead Accelerator all that often. Our creative actually has had a lot longer kind of life than we thought it would in Lead Accelerator. And I think it's probably because we're reaching new and different people on a regular basis. But what we do is we pay a lot of attention, kind of on a weekly basis. We're getting in there and looking at how creative is performing. And the two metrics that we are looking at, and probably the most important one that we look at, is impressions per action. So how many impressions is it taking people to convert, to click on that ad and reach the landing page? And so we optimize for the ads that are running with the lowest impressions per action. So we are constantly sort of shuffling the order of our campaigns based on that. So we put the lowest impressions per action at the top and then funnel that down to the kind of lowest. And we sort of have our own internal benchmark for what we think is a good number. And I think that each company it differs and it varies. But once you have that established, for us, it's around 30,000 to 3,500 impressions per action. If campaigns or if creative starts getting higher than that, we're going to turn it off. However, we also will look at click-through rate as a kind of a secondary metric that we pay attention to. So if click-through rate is really strong, then we might actually think about changing the landing page instead, and trying to optimize it that way. So we pay attention to sort of both of those metrics, and as well as ultimately the conversions or the inquiries that we're getting from these campaigns. So I guess to get back to how often do we refresh the creative, I would say that we're putting a new piece of content in our Lead Accelerator campaigns on a monthly basis because we're always including new content that we're launching, but we're not necessarily like removing something every month as well. It sort of just depends on how everything's performing. So I would say on a monthly basis, we're really making changes about what's in those streams, but also looking at it on a weekly basis to make sure things are performing well.
Awesome. Okay, I think we'll probably take just a couple more questions. Good question came in around which channels are best for gated content versus non-gated content. I can sort of give my opinion, then I'll hand it off to Amanda to see how she sort of thinks through this. I feel like, it all depends, and this is one of the nuances that Lead Accelerator handles quite nicely. If someone is just starting to begin to learn about you, so let's say you're running a brand awareness campaign, I don't think you necessarily want to, put up a gate to them learning more about you. So you don't want to create a lot of friction, especially when someone's not that sales ready, right? So if you're using a channel like display advertising, it probably makes sense to maybe just have people learn more about your company, so have that be the call to action. But for people who have actually gone to your website and engaged with you over time and sort of consumed multiple pages, that's when you really want to consider gating your content, because these people are more sales ready. You want to make sure that you can capture their information so you can continue to have that relevant conversation with them.
Yeah, I'll second that, Jen. I agree with you on both points. And then the only other thing I'll add is around potentially around email. So, I think email can be a channel for both gated and ungated or non-gated content. But you have to think about who you're reaching. So when you're getting, for example, if you sponsor an event or a webinar or some sort of campaign like that where people may or may not have actually engaged with your brand. Maybe they just attended the event but didn't visit your booth. Like you might want to start with some content that's not gated, because it's best to sort of start educating them. So maybe it's promoting some blog posts or an infographic, something that will get them to engage, and then thinking about building a nurture stream to capture those people once they engage and put them into a program that's got more gated content in it, like around ebooks and that type of thing.
Great, yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, two more questions, and both for Amanda, so I'll kick these over to you. First is, can you incorporate UTM tracking in Lead Accelerator?
Yes, you definitely can incorporate UTM tracking in Lead Accelerator. So you have the ability to put in whatever URL you want for your landing page, and you can include UTM parameters. We actually, in fact, do include UTM parameters here at LinkedIn, so it's easy to do.
Great. And last question, so how do you go about targeting specific industries? This person was interested specifically in targeting insurance professionals, but how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's actually, when you're talking about LinkedIn channels, it's actually a fairly easy thing to do. All of our sponsored updates, InMail, Lead Accelerator gives you the ability to use LinkedIn data to target people in specific industries. So for sponsored updates, you can select the industry you want to target. You can select, so you'd be able to opt in for insurance professionals, and maybe there's some other industries around there that would make sense as well. And then same goes for InMail. You could specifically target them. And then Lead Accelerator gives you the ability to add on industry targeting like as another layer to people who are hitting your site. So if you were using a segment of people who had visited your homepage, and then left, you could say, I want to target people who visited my homepage, and then add in, but they have to be in the insurance industry. And so you can get a little bit more specific in your targeting there if you think you have enough reach. So lots of ways to target industries. LinkedIn's definitely got strong data around that, and so it's definitely pretty simple to do.
Perfect. Great. So yeah, I think we are going to close things off now. Thank you again so much for joining us today. And be on the lookout for a follow-up email with various resources that you'll find useful. And we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thanks again.